Good afternoon and welcome to Webinar Wednesdays with Team IET. Today's webinar is titled IET and Community Industry Partnerships, Using Advisory Committees to Drive the Selection of CTE Objectives. My name is Alexander Ramirez, and I'll be your presenter for this afternoon. I'm a accreditation specialist, and I have worked in industry advisory committees for some time in career and technical education. I look forward to driving this out with you all this afternoon. Before we get started, I'd like to cover some basic housekeeping. If you have a question at any time during the presentation, please use the Q&A box. I'll be monitoring throughout the presentation to ensure that everybody's questions are answered on time. And at the end of the presentation, I'll set aside some time to answer any questions during the last 5 or 10 minutes or so. Throughout the presentation, attendee microphones will be muted and you will be in listen-only mode. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be archived and available on the IPDATE website within 48 hours. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we get started, I'd like to cover today's learning objectives. And I like to present these in a question-answer format so that we know what we're going to cover today. The first is, what is an industry advisory committee? Today, we're going to discuss exactly what an industry advisory committee is, while exploring its role in career and technical education. We'll also define the different components of the committee, as well as provide a breakdown of its key members and their roles. By the end of today's webinar, you'll be knowledgeable in the creation and implementation of an advisory committee, as well as become well-versed in its purpose and mission as it supports school improvement goals and strategies. The second question is, how can educators effectively implement industry advisory committees? And to explore this, we'll take a deep dive into the application of the industry advisory committee in a career and technical education setting, and what it looks like in practice. I'll offer some tips derived from my experience serving in these committees and how fruitful discussions with industry, teachers, and students have produced incredible strategies for program and school improvement. The next question that we're going to answer today is, what is the role of the industry advisory committee in curriculum development? Industry advisory committees play a critical role in the modification and the development of career and technical institutions' curriculum development. The close ties between the school and the industry allow for productive discussions on student outcomes in the workplace to drive the evolution of a program's curriculum. This not only provides students with modern curriculum that directly addresses evolving workforce needs, but also provides them with exposure to necessary skills and content. This helps to enable their success past program completion. The last question we're going to be answering is, how can industry advisory committees contribute to strategic planning? School strategic planning depends heavily on the input from industry partners. In industry advisory committee meetings, they provide industry partners with a platform through which to discuss the needs of employers as technology and the economy continuously evolve. Discussions regarding student skills mastery, content knowledge attainment, and the use of new and future technologies not only help schools provide a future-proof education to their students, but also help to ensure that program completers are effectively meeting the demands of their industry. Through the Industry Advisory Committee, industry partners have the opportunity to discuss trends and technologies in their industry while providing schools with an evaluation of student progress post-program completion. There are 3 major roles that the Industry Advisory Committee plays in program development. The first is strategic planning. It enables the development of goals for program completion, assessment outcomes, organizational development, and program growth. To successfully contribute to a school's strategic planning, collaboration between school administrators and industry partners is key. During discussions regarding school improvement or the implementation of new strategic initiatives, industry input and involvement is critical in answering some very important questions. The first is, how will this positively affect students' preparation for workforce? Another is, does this strategy adequately respond to the changes in the industry? How does this strategy affect the recent technological or economical shifts in an industry? And will this strategy implementation improve student achievement beyond graduation once students achieve in-field job placement? These are all important questions in assuring that school strategic measures and initiatives are addressing workforce needs. Often, during an industry advisory committee, asking these questions when implementing a new program supplement or strategic initiative can help administrators ensure that school improvement goals have a direct and positive impact on student achievement. The second role is that of curriculum development. Developing and adapting curriculum to meet industry demands and ensuring that students are prepared for licensure examinations is absolutely critical. Curriculum modifications and improvements in career and technical education are largely associated with changes in state and national licensure exams, which respond to changes both technologically and procedurally in a career or career cluster. As individual schools address the changes in curriculum frameworks, it is critical to ensure that industry partners are a part of the conversation. By leveraging these relationships, schools can provide better input on workforce needs and demands, and ensure that curriculum is adapted to meet rising challenges as they occur. The final component is job placement. Engaging with industry partners to create a network of employers and supporting in-field job placement upon program completion is the end journey for students' progression life. As I mentioned last week in our webinar elaborating on the student progression timeline, in-field job placement is the end product and the final goal. Having industry partners involved in the process of developing curriculum and implementing school improvement strategies creates a vast network of employers for students upon program completion. This network of employers is often well acquainted with the talent which is being graduated from a school and will eagerly hire students post-program completion. This will increase job placement rates and ensure that students attain high-paying jobs in the industry for which they trained. In career and technical education, the relationship between industry and school forms the bedrock for preparing students to work in their fields. This relationship is developed through the implementation of industry advisory committees. These committees provide schools with an opportunity to collaborate with industry partners and ensure that a program's goals align with the needs of employers. They are a critical component of career and technical education and play an important role in the development of CTE programs. Advisory committees are made up of members which represent the student body, the school staff, and most importantly, industry partners. They provide stakeholders with an opportunity to provide meaningful insight, enabling educators and school administrators to make effective strategic decisions. In many career and technical education settings, industry advisory committees are mandated by accrediting agencies, such as the Council on Occupational Education. Industry advisory committees provide CTE programs with the support they need to grow and are absolutely essential to the development of job placement efforts. By involving local industry partners, schools create a network of employers who are directly involved in the strategic growth of the school. This not only provides students with several avenues for employment, but also ensures in-field job placement. In addition to providing employment avenues and curriculum and strategic support, industry advisory committees also benefit career and technical education programs by providing a continuous evaluation of employed graduate students. This component of industry involvement is essential in addressing the skills and knowledge required to succeed in employment. Reporting on deficient skills or content area knowledge assists curriculum developers and administrators in addressing the strategic needs of a program. In adult education, industry advisory committees can guide educators and school administrators in ensuring that CTE objectives, which drive IET, are aligned with local industry demands. Additionally, the committees provide adult education programs with insight into expected academic requirements and skills which are needed to succeed in represented career and technical programs. While essential to the development of adult education and career and technical education programs, the importance of the Industry Advisory Committee extends into job placement. By involving local industry partners, schools can create a network of employers involved in strategic growth of the school. This in turn provides students with several avenues for employment. Ensuring adequate job placement is a critical component of a successful career and technical education program. As adult education students transition into career and technical programs via transition academies, the importance of community involvement through industry advisory committees takes new form, providing support for strategic program growth and input on curriculum development. During the implementation of transition academies, adult educators will have the opportunity to collaborate with career and technical education teachers and administrators and ensure that the development of integrated education and training objectives is driven by the skills and competencies of the career and technical program for which they are preparing students. This collaboration may extend into industry advisory committee meetings, where adult educators will be provided with the opportunity to observe firsthand what makes career and technical education such a prospective path to employment. Understanding the involvement of industry in the development of career and technical education curriculum provides adult educators with perspective into the process of developing a CTE program. Let's take a look at the industry partner selection checklist. Selecting industry partners for an industry advisory committee requires local industry research to determine which companies are hiring the most students, which are completing career and technical programs at a local technical college or CTE institution. This is in addition to prospective employers and new businesses. When selecting members for a school's industry advisory committee, educators and administrators should build partnerships by leveraging strong relationships with community partners who are already involved in the development of locally provided CTE programs. Adult education institutions are strongly encouraged to collaborate with career and technical education institutions or technical colleges to include industry advisory members from their own career and technical education advisory committees. Industry advisory partners should be employees from companies which directly hire students from the CTE program. The advisory members should be employees in a supervisory capacity and should be in a position with hiring responsibilities. Ideally, an advisory committee member will provide feedback on student performance and report back to the school on key skills and content which may need improvement. This relationship and open dialogue between the employer and the school supports strategic planning and organizational growth, all while promoting academic achievement and career achievement after graduation. Administrators should consider advisory committee members who have had time in their schedule to participate in committee meetings and be involved in the strategic planning process of the school. These advisory committee members may spend time at the schools, engaging the school strategic planning committee. They will engage the school at planning meetings, excellence advisory committee meetings, and volunteer at community events. So let's review the checklist. The partner is somebody who should be employed in a related field or industry for which the students will be hired. And this is very important because we want hiring power on our industry advisory committee boards. We want to ensure that the feedback that we're getting from our industry partners is coming from someone who is choosing our students and hiring them. And this is a continuous evaluation of student progress past program completion. And this is a fantastic way for schools, for career and technical education schools, to ensure that students are succeeding past program completion. How are they doing in their new jobs? Are they excelling? Did they take all the skills and content knowledge that they needed from the program? And are they applying it effectively in the industry? This open dialogue with partners is really that core value, that core importance when you're creating an industry committee and when you're having these meetings. So it's really important that the partners you're choosing for your industry advisory committees are people with hiring power. It's also important that these partners have time available and are willing to engage a school. It's not just a hiring manager or a CEO. You want to ensure that these managers and these powerful individuals in the industry have time to engage a school and attend all the meetings. And this will be the time set aside when you can engage them and discuss not only the strategic planning of the school, but the needs of the industry moving forward. And this is incredibly important in today's era as technology is rapidly evolving exponentially. And this changes the skills and the requirements in all industries almost yearly. So as we're discussing curriculum modifications and new strategies to improve student achievement, it's really important that the people that are involved in that process are available to join your committee meetings and be a part of that discussion. Industry advisory committees are structured to include members from the industry, the student body, teaching faculty, administration, and the community. For many accrediting agencies which require advisory committees, there are a minimum number of industry members required to establish quorum. To effectively establish an advisory committee, there should be a minimum of 3 local industry partners on the membership roster for the committee. Having multiple advisory members will ensure a diverse representation of hiring companies in the industry, while providing ample feedback for strategic initiatives and propositions. So something that you want in your industry advisory committees is a diverse representation of that industry. If you're in aviation maintenance, which just so happens to be the career technical program that I work at in my home school, you may want to include airframe shops and turbine shops, landing gear shops, and many different aircraft repair station shops that handle the different components of airplanes. And the reason I use this example is because aviation is incredibly varied. And we want to ensure that all the industry partners that are involved in that industry advisory committee come from a variety of settings within aviation. I've developed this diagram here to kind of simplify the organization of the structure. On the left, you have your industry component. These are your industry partners, your managers, your CEOs, and your human resources representatives. These are the individuals who will be hiring your students. On the right, you have the school and the school administrators, teachers, and students. And the incredibly important link between the two is the industry advisory chairperson. Of the industry members, one of these will serve as a chairperson of the committee. This individual will help to organize the meetings and ensure that all the items on meeting agendas are covered. It is important that the chairperson role is assigned to a participating industry representative. This industry advisory chairperson acts as a liaison between the school and the industry, and oftentimes will be critical in setting up the meetings and ensuring that all the industry partners can come. It's very important to have everyone in attendance when you're discussing school strategic planning and curriculum development. As I stated earlier, that diverse representation will have different angles, different viewpoints, and different perspectives to offer as to what needs to change in the curriculum in order to address those technological changes in the industry. In addition to industry representatives, students are also involved in successful industry advisory committees. Student input is an often overlooked yet critical component of successful strategic planning for a school or program. Input from students regarding instructional quality, customer service, the learning environment, and testing requirements is critical in determining future strategic goals. Having students collaborate with industry also provides them with meaningful opportunity to build relationships with future employers and to discuss concerns for new graduates entering the workforce. This may include mentorship programs and apprenticeships. A successful industry advisory committee will maintain at least 3 students on the roster. And having these students as involved in the committee is absolutely critical. This is really a way for the industry to communicate with the talent that's going to be coming in, the talent that's going to be hired in the industry. And it also gives the students an opportunity to network with industry partners and establish a good network of employers past graduation. In my experience with industry advisory committees, many of the students that have served on the committee ended up finding jobs at these companies because of their network abilities. Teachers, administrators, student services, and curriculum development staff representing both AGE and CTE programs provide data and information regarding potential strategic initiatives. For committees that are representing AGE programs with career and technical education transition academies, staff and faculty from both the school providing the adult education program and the technical college or career and technical education institution will both be present to address challenges in the transition and preparation process. This element of cooperation is important to the success of a CTE transition academy, and it provides educators and administrators with organized time and the space to discuss the development of the academy and its effect on addressing key skills and competencies. This not only supports the implementation of integrated education and training in an adult program, but also ensures that its career and technical education goals are aligned with the industry demands. Let's go through the Industry Advisory Committee roster checklist. This checklist is designed to help schools ensure that all necessary members of an industry advisory committee are being included. The first and most critical individual is the Industry Advisory Committee chairperson. As I stated earlier, this individual acts as a chief liaison between the school and the industry represented in its program. It should be noted that for schools with various programs in different industries, there will be a different industry advisory committee chairperson for each committee. The committee chairperson must be an industry representative from the industry of the program and should have close ties with other industry partners. Because this individual will act as the chief liaison between the school administrators and industry partners, the individual should have time in their schedule to commit to the organization meetings and attendance of school events. As an ambassador to the industry, it is important that a school select this individual carefully. In addition to the chairperson, each committee will require 3 industry representatives. These representatives should be individuals with hiring power, ideally in management, human resources, or strategic positions within a company. Ideally, these individuals will provide insight into the technological and personnel changes within an industry, as well as speaking to the changes within the industry, which could affect the necessary educational preparation required to enter the career. The individuals will provide support regarding school improvement, curriculum development, and provide job opportunities to graduated students. In many cases, these individuals may establish partnerships with the school which are mutually beneficial. At least one school administrator should be present at each industry advisory committee meeting. School site administrators are key management personnel that oversee both the implementation of strategic initiatives and the development of curriculum. These administrators should be supported by at least 1 teacher and 2 students. The inclusion of teachers and students in an industry advisory committee is critical in ensuring classroom representation. As curriculum is modified, many administrators and industry partners will find it useful to have an inside perspective of what the applications in the classroom will look like. In addition to this, teachers can provide meaningful insight on possible challenges that need to be overcome. Student involvement is also key in developing both curriculum and school strategic initiatives. Student input provides learner perspective, and oftentimes it is the students who can point out where the greatest challenges and obstacles to student achievement lie. Although ideally you would only have 2 or 3 students in an industry advisory committee, we've had as many as 5 or 6 in my experience, and really having their input is incredibly valuable, not only to the industry partners, but also to the school, as we consider the engagement and the development of new strategies for student achievement. It's oftentimes the students themselves that can tell us where their greatest challenges lie on their path to graduation and their path to job placement. A few years ago at an industry advisory committee meeting, there was a challenge presented by industry partners in which they stated that many students graduating were having a difficult time with the hiring process due to the interviewing process. And it was the students' involvement in that committee that led to the development of a resume building and job skills workshop, which aimed at preparing students adequately, not only for the job interview, but also to write their own resumes and cover letters. And without that student insight and that student perspective of what they needed, the program would have never been such a success. And as a result of the implementation of those job skills workshops and that resume building workshops, the student job placement rate jumped as much as 6% annually. So really having students involved in the industry advisory committee meeting can provide a lot of benefit to the school. Let's discuss integrated education and training and how the industry advisory committee meeting affects the selection of the CTE objectives. Integrated education and training focuses on developing a single set of learning objectives. And this single set of learning objectives is designed to address AGE skills and competencies using a real world or a career and technical application. In order to do this, developing a single set of learning objectives which are based on the skills and standards from both adult and curriculum and career and technical curriculum frameworks, requires educators to perform extensive research in choosing which career and technical education standards are the best for the integration. To do this, industry advisory committees can play an important role in the research phase. During committee meetings, educators and administrators gather data from industry committee members on critical skills and content area knowledge. This data is used during the process of selecting the career and technical education standards and skills, which will form the base for the IET single set of learning objectives. As members in leadership positions within the industry, advisory committee members representing local companies have data which can be used during the program objective development process. During industry advisory committee meetings, curriculum developers, educators, and administrators discuss the organizational goals of a school and how these goals will adjust in the coming school year to best utilize the data which has been provided by the industry partners. These discussions are also shared with students, utilizing their input on initiatives to enhance the learning environment and promote growth in critical entrepreneurial skills while increasing student achievement. So for those of you that joined me last week during the student progression timeline, we discussed this stage, integrated education and training, in great detail. And we talked about it as a kind of overlap stage in which adult educators and career and technical educators combine their skills to develop a single set of learning objectives. And this single set of learning objectives is the primary driver for IET. The Industry Advisory Committee meeting is critical in the selection of the career and technical education portion of the competencies, because it's the Industry Advisory Committee which will be able to engage the educators and the administrators to discuss what exactly the industry needs. Adult educators can really make use of this information because they can use the competencies selected in a meeting, discussed in a meeting, those competencies which are maybe at a deficiency or of critical importance in an industry, and they can use those in determining the IET single set of learning objectives. This integration is the primary place where an adult educator can really benefit from joining in or sitting in a career and technical education industry advisory committee meeting. When discussing career and technical education objectives during an industry advisory committee meeting, some questions which are frequently asked include: which skills are most in demand within the industry currently? This is absolutely important in today's climate. As technology exceeds and evolves exponentially, these in-demand skills are constantly changing. Without a link with the industry in which to discuss this economical and this technological change, schools can become frustrated and will not have the tools, the best tools directly from the industry with which to use to drive their curriculum development and their strategic growth. Another question is, what are the most common skills deficiencies that are observed in new hires? So another critical component of these industry advisory committees is a continuous evaluation of students that have been placed in the industry. This dialogue between an administrator and the individuals who are hiring students is really important in discussing where student deficiencies lie. And sometimes they may be soft skills deficiencies or entrepreneurial skills deficiencies. It could be technical or vocational skills deficiencies. And in many cases, it can be basic skills deficiencies. If students are having an issue with a specific skill and the industry partners have brought that to the table during an industry advisory committee, it presents an opportunity for administration to correct the issue, to design a strategy, implement a program, or modify the curriculum, And this helps to ensure that students are not only achieving during their program, but also achieving in job placement. And this helps to build that relationship up between the industry and the school and ensure that the industry is comfortable, prepared, and eager to hire students right out of the program, which of course is the final stage of the student progression timeline and our goal as adult and career and technical educators. And another question is, which entrepreneurial skills are most needed for entry-level positions in the field? As we discuss the changing needs and changing skill demands of the 21st century, entrepreneurial skills have taken the spotlight. The need for critical thinking, problem solving, marketing, oral and written communication, and teamwork have never been more important. In industry advisory committee meetings, we allow our industry partners a platform with which to discuss with us which entrepreneurial skills are the most critical in their industry, and maybe the ones that are deficient in new hires. This helps not only to modify the curriculum, but to supplant it with entrepreneurial skills workshops and competencies added to exercises and classroom activities. And this is where adult educators play a critical role, because adult educators are the ones who first educate the student prior to their integration or their transfer into a career and technical education program. So as adult educators, sitting in on an industry advisory committee meeting at your local career and technical institution can provide you with a lot of insight on which entrepreneurial skills are most in demand for those industries for which that career and technical education institution is preparing students for. Another question is, what are some adult basic skills areas where new hires and existing employees can benefit from improvement? And this is another area where adult educators not only take the helm and the responsibility, but really have the most opportunity to make an impact on student lives. As adult educators, you often take the responsibility of teaching adult basic skills, reading, literacy, and writing skills. And in many cases, these hiring partners and industry partners state that this is an area where new hires are deficient. Understanding which basic skills to work on and which basic skills to focus on during transition academies is a critical phase of preparing these students to succeed, not only in their career and technical program, but also when they achieve in-field job placement. And the selection of CTE objectives should be driven by data collected through discussion with these industry partners. Selecting career and technical education objectives which support integrated education and training implementation is not a static act, but rather a consistent collaborative effort in which schools maintain open dialogue with industry partners to ensure synchronicity between workforce preparation and career development. The primary function of the Industry Advisory Committee is to provide the strategic support to educators and a school or program. School strategic planning is essential for the organizational growth of an institution, and it often entails making policy and curriculum changes which adapt to the changing needs of the economy. As educators leverage Industry Advisory Committee members' work experience to drive school strategic development, it is important that they also consider student achievement past program completion. When organizing strategies to increase student achievement and job placement upon program completion, it is important that educators keep three key metrics in mind: the program's program completion rate, the job placement rate, and licensure attainment rate. These metrics often offer insight into the success of a career and technical education program and are in many cases required for accreditation purposes. As adult educators, paying close attention to these metrics pertaining to programs in which adult basic education students are attending during integrated and education and training programs can help with the adjustment of the single set of learning objectives. This strategy will help educators ensure that the alignment between adult programs and career and technical education programs properly prepares students to succeed. When discussing strategic planning at an industry advisory committee meeting, school administrators will engage industry partners on the issues preparing students for the workforce. This may manifest as a discussion regarding the soft skills, literacy, practical or hands-on skills, and of course, entrepreneurial skills, which are required to succeed in the industry. This discussion between industry partners and educators is at the core of what makes industry advisory committees so successful in developing career and technical education programs. Using industry advisory committees and their strategic goals can also help adult educators with the improvement of integrated education training programs and transition academies. By aligning integrated education training supported programs to career and technical education strategic objectives, adult educators can ensure that students are preparing adequately for career and technical training and in-field job placement. This begins with the establishment of strategies which address the foundational needs of a specific career and technical education program. Now, before we jump into questions, I do want to offer two resources that I also offered in last week's webinar. These are really great resources in understanding how these industry advisory committees are structured to work. Many career and technical education programs throughout the country are accredited by the Council on Occupational Education. They serve as the gold standard for career and technical education programs. And this Council on Occupational Education sets forth the kind of restrictions and the guidelines for how to properly set up an industry advisory committee meeting. For those of you that are interested in mirroring this process at your adult school or joining and understanding the process at a local career and technical institution, I do encourage you to go to thecouncil.org and check out their guidelines and their accreditation manuals. I've also included this link in the materials that are attached to this webinar. I've also included a really important video that I love to share with everyone. It's a short video on the development of the new economy. It's on YouTube. It's a really fun video, and it is extremely informational on the kind of skills shift that is happening in today's economy and how the necessity for career and technical education graduates is eclipsing that of university professions. And this eclipse in demand is really providing a wonderful opportunity for career and technical education students to make fantastic money and to join careers with a lot of job opportunities. So if you get the chance, please watch this video. I think it's going to really give you a lot of insight into the world of career and technical education and the kind of job opportunities that are available right now for students. And of course, this link is also available on the handout, which is associated with this webinar. So thank you all for listening. I do want to open the floor now for any possible questions. If you have any questions about, the application of one of these committees or the kind of discussions that we've had in these industry advisory committees in the past, feel free to do so. I'll sit around for a few minutes and answer as many questions as I can. And please do remember, as you are asking the questions, to put them in the Q&A box and not in the chat, please. And that'll allow me to see it and answer it. I will give you just a minute here to go ahead and ask your questions. If you have any questions about, the application of an industry advisory committee in an adult institution or at a career and technical institution, or how to seek out industry advisory partners, feel free to go ahead and ask. All right, so it doesn't seem like we have any questions today. That's very good, thank you. Oh, we do have one here. Do you think that an industry advisory committee should be established through the adult education program or the career and technical education program? That is a fantastic question. Although it's common practice to establish the committee in a CTE program, you would want to have some adult educators involved. And if you wanted to have those industry partners also involved in an adult education program, then that wouldn't be a bad idea either. You can, as an adult institution, establish one of these committees and have those industry partners that are a member of the career and technical programs. You can have them visit your adult institution, and you can have them have direct input as you're developing your IET objectives. And this is a kind of collaborative effort because you'll be working with the same partners that your local CTE institution is working with. And that is a really symbiotic relationship in which both schools and the industry is benefited. And most importantly, the student, because you're going to be teaching now the skills necessary to succeed in the industry and the skills necessary to succeed in that career and technical program. So although it's typically established in a career and technical program, you may do it at an adult and education setting. So thank you. Very, very, very good question. I'll wait just a few more seconds for any more questions. All right, thank you very much. At this time, I would like to offer you an opportunity to provide some feedback for today's webinar. We really appreciate your feedback. It really helps us to kind of improve. And so please go ahead and take a moment to answer the questions on the screen. And next week, feel free to join us. I do encourage you to join us on June 23rd at 3 p.m. for Webinar Wednesdays. Our webinar will be titled Leading the Way in Florida's IET Programs. So please make sure to go ahead and sign up for that if you're interested. And thank you very much for your attendance today. Have a wonderful afternoon.